Um, let's talk about the absolute hardest part of your day. And for a lot of you listening, I'm willing to bet it happens before your day has even really started.
Oh, absolutely.
You know the exact feeling. Your alarm goes off, and suddenly your bed feels like the warmest, safest embrace in the entire world.
It's a trap.
It is. The snooze button is right there, just whispering those sweet little lies into your ear, like, just 5 more minutes, you deserve it.
Right. And we always believe it.
Every single time. And the next thing you know, you are waking up feeling groggy, reactive, and completely stuck behind the 8 ball, rushing to catch up with a day that has already started without you.
I mean, it's a universally humbling human experience. But the cost of that repeated morning struggle is what makes it so fascinating to analyze.
Yeah, how so?
Well, how you spend those first few minutes doesn't just dictate your morning schedule, it sets the entire psychological and biological tone for your day. Over time, the tone of your days becomes the tone of your identity.
Wow. That's a huge stakes jump.
It is. To ground our discussion right away, we should look at a thought from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love."
I love that.
Taking control of your morning isn't about punishing yourself with rigid, miserable routines. It is about honoring the privilege of having a new day at all.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. We've got a brilliant piece of source material to unpack. It's a highly detailed video from the YouTube channel Stoic Lens.
It's a great breakdown.
It really is. It breaks down 15 specific morning routines designed to help you master your mind and actually win your day. So our mission right now is to extract the absolute most powerful, practical takeaways from this source.
We're going to be blending the ancient wisdom of Stoic philosophy.
Giants like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus.
Exactly. Blending them with the modern psychological insights of Carl Jung and backing it all up with actual human biology.
Because ancient philosophy and modern science are often pointing at the exact same truths, just from different angles.
Spot on. And the first major truth this source tackles is about building physical and digital boundaries right out of the gate.
Right.
The primary recommendation is waking up 1 hour earlier than you normally do to create a peaceful sanctuary of uninterrupted time.
1 whole hour.
1 hour. It is a dedicated window for clarity before the emails flood in, before the texts ping, and before the world demands your attention.
Okay, but let's be realistic about human nature here. Waking up an hour early sounds great in theory, but when that alarm goes off in the pitch black,
The dread is overwhelming.
it is so overwhelming. How do you
Yeah.
actually get past that mental wall where your brain is telling you that getting out of bed is the worst possible thing you could do?
The Stoic framework is incredibly useful for that exact moment. The philosopher Seneca pointed out that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality.
Oh, that is so true for the alarm clock.
Right. The dread you feel about waking up early, the story you tell yourself about how tired and miserable you will be, is almost always worse than the actual physical act of throwing off the covers and standing up.
You just have to break the illusion.
Exactly. You have to break that illusion. The 20th century psychologist Carl Jung had a concept that applies beautifully here. He said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes."
Who looks inside awakes?
Yes. That quiet extra hour isn't just about getting more busy work done. It is the only time you realistically have to look inward without the world looking back at you.
Okay, so you throw off the covers, you break the illusion, and you are up.
Yeah.
If you're anything like me, your very next move is the zombie shuffle, straight to the espresso machine.
A classic move.
But the source throws a massive wrench into this plan. It insists on a tall glass of water before any coffee.
Yes, it does.
And I have to admit, my initial reaction to this is pure resistance.
Yeah.
I mean, can't the hydration wait until I've at least had a sip of caffeine to feel human?
If you look at the biology, no. The hydration absolutely cannot wait.
Really?
Think about what your body just did. You have gone 6 to 8 hours without a single drop of fluids. Your brain, which is composed mostly of water, is waking up literally dehydrated.
That makes sense.
And a dehydrated brain struggles with attention, with memory, and with mood regulation. When you reach for caffeine first, you are trying to stimulate an engine that doesn't even have oil in it yet.
Oh, wow.
You are forcing a physiological spike on top of a depleted system.
Well, that paints a pretty bleak picture of my morning coffee ritual.
It's not about eliminating the coffee, it's just about sequencing. Epictetus, one of the sharpest Stoic minds, emphasized daily discipline over instant gratification.
So the water is about discipline.
Yes. Drinking a tall glass of water first thing is an act of overriding your unconscious impulse. You are consciously choosing wellness and cognitive clarity over the automatic, sleepy stumble toward the coffee pot.
It is a tiny promise you make and keep with yourself before you've even fully opened your eyes.
Right.
Speaking of opening your eyes, the source highlights a massive trap right at this moment: reaching for your phone.
The ultimate trap.
It recommends delaying any screen time for at least 30 minutes. But why is that initial window so critical? What is actually happening in the brain when we look at our notifications right out of bed?
It comes down to dopamine mechanics and stress hormones. When you wake up, your brain waves are transitioning from a deep, restful state into waking consciousness.
It's a fragile state.
Highly fragile. If the first thing you do is grab your phone, you are immediately injecting the chaos of the world into that state. You see a stressful work email, and your cortisol spikes.
Or you see a flashy social media post and you get a cheap dopamine hit.
Exactly. You are essentially handing your baseline attention span and your emotional regulation over to an algorithm housed on a server in Silicon Valley.
That is a terrifying way to frame it.
Marcus Aurelius famously advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Your smartphone is a portal for infinite outside events to invade your mental sanctuary.
So protecting that first 30 minutes means you decide what thoughts enter your mind rather than just reacting.
Exactly. You set the baseline.
Okay, let's unpack this. While we are ignoring our phones and drinking our water, the source suggests tackling the environment, specifically making the bed.
A seemingly small thing.
Right. We've all heard Admiral William McRaven's philosophy that making your bed proves you can get the little things right. It sets a tone for the day. But I've always wondered, how does fluffing a couple of pillows and pulling up a sheet actually change the trajectory of my Tuesday?
Carl Jung deeply believed in the symbolic power of our physical environment. He taught that the space around you isn't just a backdrop, it reflects your internal state.
So a messy room means a messy mind.
Essentially, yes. A cluttered, chaotic bedroom represents inner noise, unprocessed thoughts, and unresolved emotion. When you tidy your immediate environment, you are creating psychological alignment.
You are sending a physical, visual signal to your brain that you are asserting control over your space.
Yes, and that visual feedback loop reduces subtle background anxiety and replaces it with a sense of order.
Okay, so making the bed fixes the chaos in our environment. But how do we fix that stiff, groggy feeling in our actual bodies?
That's where habit number 5 comes in.
Right, the source points to movement next. And just to clarify for everyone listening, we aren't talking about sweating through a grueling heavy lifting session or running a 5K before breakfast.
No, not at all.
It describes this as activating your life force.
Jung described the body as the visibility of the soul or the psyche. If your physical body is locked up, dormant, and stiff from sleeping, your psyche is essentially trapped in that same stagnation.
Motion disrupts emotion.
Beautifully put. When you feel anxious or unmotivated in the morning, the fastest way to snap out of that mental fog is to physically move your body.
Whether that is stretching, a brisk walk, or some light yoga.
Exactly. You are waking up your nervous system. You aren't negotiating with your excuses. You are just putting your body in motion and forcing your mind to catch up.
Okay, I am fully on board with some light stretching. But the next habit the source suggests is where I draw the line.
The cold showers.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Shocking your mind awake with cold showers, let's be real, is a blast of freezing water actually doing anything dialogically useful? Or is this just some macho stoic torture test to prove we can suffer?
It is deeply biological, and it hinges on neuroplasticity. The Stoics were certainly obsessed with voluntary discomfort, but not for the sake of torture. They understood that comfort breeds fragility.
Comfort breeds fragility.
Okay. When you step into a cold shower, your body experiences a physiological panic response. Your heart rate spikes, your breathing becomes shallow, and every instinct screams at you to flee.
That sounds horrible.
It does. But the practice here is to override that panic. You force yourself to stay, and you force your breathing to slow down and stabilize.
So you were basically training yourself to stay calm while your body thinks it is under attack.
Precisely. You are literally rewiring your brain's stress response. If you can control your breath under the shock of freezing water at 7 a.m., you're going to be significantly better equipped to maintain your poise when a crisis hits your desk at 2 p.m.
Wow. You are building fortitude.
And the source notes, you don't need to stay in there for 10 minutes. You just need 30 seconds at the end of your regular shower to get that physiological spike in alertness and blood flow.
30 seconds. I guess I can survive 30 seconds.
Jung noted, what you resist persists. If you avoid the discomfort of the cold, you are practicing the avoidance of discomfort in general.
That is a very humbling thought.
Yeah.
Assuming I survive those 30 seconds, I am going to want breakfast. And the source is very specific about fuel.
It is.
It warns against grabbing those sugary pastries that taste incredible, but leave you completely drained 2 hours later.
Epictetus believed that self-mastery completely applied to the physical body. You cannot expect yourself to think clearly or act decisively if you are running a high-performance machine on junk fuel.
Right? A massive dose of processed sugar causes a rapid insulin spike followed by a severe crash.
Which manifests as brain fog and irritability. Your brain requires real protein to stabilize your blood sugar and healthy fats to support sustained focus. Feeding your body real, intentional food is an act of self-respect.
The source pairs this intentional fueling with an interesting environmental habit, getting outside into nature.
Just 5 minutes.
Spending just 5 minutes outdoors. We are so overstimulated by fluorescent lights and screens, but does a 5-minute walk actually do anything to counteract that?
It fundamentally resets your biological clock. When natural morning sunlight hits the melanopsin receptors in your eyes, it sends a direct signal to your brain to halt the production of melatonin.
The sleep hormone.
Right. It halts melatonin and increases cortisol and serotonin in a healthy, natural way. It sets your circadian rhythm for the entire day.
So it's not just a nice idea, it's a biological requirement.
Absolutely. And beyond the biology, there is a profound psychological grounding. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "Nature loves to hide, but it's not hiding from you."
That's a great quote.
When you step outside, breathe real air, and feel the sun, you reconnect with a rhythm that is much older and steadier than the curated chaos of your digital calendar. It provides immediate perspective.
Okay, so the body is awake, the nervous system is shocked, the circadian rhythm is set. How do we tackle the mental noise?
We journal.
Yes. The source introduces journaling, but it frames it as emptying the mental junk drawer. I love this analogy because it takes the pressure off.
You don't have to be a poet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are no grammar rules. You aren't writing a masterpiece. You are just dumping the chaos onto paper.
The junk drawer is the perfect way to look at it.
Sure.
Consider Marcus Aurelius's famous work, Meditations.
One of the greatest philosophical texts in history.
And it was never intended for publication. It was his private journal, a place to process his challenges and keep his ego in check.
That's amazing to think about.
Jung pointed out that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The physical act of writing slows down your racing thoughts.
It forces you to articulate vague anxieties.
Right. When you pour those hidden worries and buried fears onto a physical page, they stop quietly dictating your mood from the shadows.
Once that mental junk drawer is empty, you actually have the space to see what needs to be done. The source suggests following the journaling with setting daily goals.
But keeping it very focused.
Right. Not a massive, overwhelming vision board. It says to pick exactly 3 concrete, achievable tasks, like reply to the accountant or walk for 20 minutes.
This ties directly into Jung's concept of individuation. In simple terms, individuation is the process of becoming the active author of your life, rather than just a passive character reacting to whatever happens.
And defining 3 small, achievable goals builds a directed identity through momentum.
You are proving to yourself that you can execute your intentions.
Now, the source pairs this goal setting with Stoic reflection, specifically choosing one single philosophical quote to anchor your morning.
It acts as emotional armor.
Emotional armor, I like that.
You might pick a quote from Seneca or Epictetus, and you sit with that one sentence, letting it color your mindset. So when the day inevitably throws an interruption or a frustrating email at you,
Which it will.
you don't instantly react with anger. You return to the center established by that reflection. You have a philosophical anchor holding you steady in the storm.
That emotional armor is crucial, especially when you think about the content we consume. The source brings up feeding your mind, which is the direct opposite of doom scrolling.
Yes.
If you are eating outrage bait for breakfast by reading angry social media threads, your mind is going to be frantic all day. The recommendation is to read just 10 pages of a good book or listen to a substantive audio track.
Seneca advised us to actively associate with people who are likely to improve us. In our modern context, that absolutely applies to the media we consume.
The essays, the audiobooks, the lectures.
These are your morning mentors. If you feed your mind noise and outrage, you get confusion and anxiety. If you feed it substance, you get strength. You are consciously choosing the values that will guide your conversations and decisions for the next 12 hours.
This all builds a brilliant foundation. But the source takes it a step further into how we actually rewrite our reality. It introduces visualization.
A very powerful tool.
I always struggle with visualization because it can feel a bit abstract, almost like magic thinking or woo-woo. Does the source give a practical example of someone actually using this to win?
It does, and it uses Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps as the prime example. He didn't just casually hope to win, he mentally rehearsed every single stroke, every turn, and even what he would do if his goggles filled with water.
Wow.
This isn't magic, it is neurology. When you vividly imagine yourself succeeding at a difficult task, your brain begins to physically construct the neurological pathways required for that action.
You are building a familiarity with the challenge before it even happens.
Exactly. And the Stoics paired this with a practice called premeditatio malorum, which means the premeditation of evils.
Wait, premeditatio malorum. That sounds incredibly intense.
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually look like for a regular person staring at a terrifying calendar invite on a Tuesday?
It means you don't just blindly hope the meeting goes perfectly. You actively rehearse the worst-case scenario. You imagine the client hating the pitch or your boss asking a question you can't answer.
That sounds like a recipe for a panic attack.
But you don't do this to panic. You do it to plan. You visualize the obstacle, and then you visualize yourself remaining calm, poised, and capable in the face of that exact obstacle.
Oh, I see.
You rob the future of its anxiety by experiencing it and solving it in your mind first.
That mental preparation perfectly sets up the next habit, practicing gratitude. And we hear the word gratitude thrown around a lot as a soft, feel-good buzzword. But the source frames it as a rigorous manual override for your brain.
That manual override is completely necessary because of human evolution. Your brain has a deeply ingrained survival instinct, a negativity bias, that constantly scans your environment for problems and threats.
Right, to keep us alive.
Exactly. If left to its own devices, your mind will naturally fixate on what is missing, what hurts, or what could go wrong. Practicing gratitude forces your brain to acknowledge what is actually working.
So it's a physical intervention.
Neurobiologically, yes. This manual shift in focus spikes your dopamine and serotonin while lowering your cortisol. It literally alters your brain chemistry to reduce stress.
That is fascinating.
Seneca captured this beautifully when he said, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." It proves you don't need perfect, problem-free conditions to find something worth appreciating.
You don't need perfect conditions, but sometimes you have to actively create your own confidence. The final piece of this puzzle is the habit of affirmations.
Speak life.
Right. We all have that inner critic. It's the voice that whispers your past mistakes and your deepest doubts to you while you're still lying in bed. Affirmations are how you fight back against that voice.
Jung warned that words are animals, alive with a will of their own.
Words are animals.
Think about what happens when you mutter, "Today is going to be a disaster," while brushing your teeth. You've just let a wild animal loose in your subconscious, and your brain will spend the rest of the day looking for evidence to prove that negative statement true.
So affirmations are how you leech that animal.
Exactly. And the key instruction from our source is that you must speak these affirmations out loud.
Why does it matter if it's out loud? Why can't I just think positive thoughts?
Because the physical vibration of your own voice reinforcing a positive belief forcefully interrupts the internal loop of doubt. It requires more neurological engagement to speak than to merely think.
It makes it real.
Seneca taught that we become brave by doing brave acts. Speaking confidence into the quiet of your room, especially when you feel anxious or entirely unequipped for the day, is an act of bravery that builds real, tangible confidence.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. From the biology of early morning hydration and the dopamine traps of our phones, to the neuroplasticity of cold showers and the mental armor of Stoic journaling.
It's a comprehensive approach.
To synthesize all of this for you listening right now, the core message from this source is incredibly freeing. You do not have to control your whole day. The day is going to be unpredictable, chaotic, and messy.
Without a doubt.
You just need to own your morning. Strength, clarity, and peace aren't things you just magically find. They're things you actively practice. So I want to ask you directly, of these 15 habits we just unpacked, which one are you going to test drive tomorrow morning? Just pick one and start there.
If I may offer one final thought to accompany that choice.
Please do.
We've just explored a profound set of tools to perfectly prepare you for the day. But life is chaotic. What happens when you inevitably oversleep, skip the water, scroll your phone in a panic, and eat a sugary pastry?
We've all been there.
If Stoicism is ultimately about how we react to things outside our control, perhaps the ultimate Stoic morning habit isn't the flawless execution of the routine itself.
What is it then?
Perhaps it is how gracefully you forgive yourself when you fail at it, using that very failure as your practice in emotional mastery, resetting your mind, and stepping into the rest of the day with composure rather than guilt.
That is the perfect perspective to end on. The routine is supposed to serve you. You don't serve the routine. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us. Keep questioning, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep learning. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.